Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going exploring the world of the wealthy.
Mm.
And I gotta say, some of the stuff we found is unbelievable.
It really is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so like we've got a whole stack of stories from this Reddit thread
Oh, yeah.
where people are like spilling the tea about
Yeah.
their encounters with rich people. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like some of these are wild.
They really challenge our assumptions.
Yeah, so we've got like millionaires who are clipping coupons.
Yeah.
And we've got like trust fund kids who are like living on another planet.
It's a whole spectrum of behavior.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up,
Okay.
one of the things that like blew my mind was this whole penny pinching paradox thing.
Oh, yeah. The penny pinching paradox.
You'd think with all that money,
Right.
they wouldn't sweat the small stuff.
You'd think so.
Right.
But it's not always about the actual amount of money.
Right.
It's more like, for some wealthy people,
Mhm.
saving money becomes a game almost, like a measure of their financial mastery.
I see.
It's less about needing to save and more about the thrill of the chase.
So it's like they get a kick out of like outsmarting the system,
Exactly.
even if they don't need to.
Yeah, and the Reddit thread is full of stories like this
Really?
about millionaires who are just obsessed
Oh,
with
yeah.
finding the best deals,
Uh-huh.
haggling over prices, and even like
Wow.
meticulously checking their grocery bills for errors.
Oh my God.
It's like they're constantly seeking ways to optimize their finances,
Mhm.
even if it means saving just a few cents.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There was this one story that really stuck with me
Okay.
about this multimillionaire who refused to tip at restaurants.
Oh, wow.
He was like arguing that it was like an unnecessary expense.
Mhm.
I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, it seems so counterintuitive, right?
It really does.
But for some people, this behavior could stem from like a deep-seated fear of
Hmm.
losing their wealth. They may have experienced financial insecurity in the past,
I see.
and that anxiety lingers even when they're incredibly wealthy.
So it's like they're haunted by this possibility of like going back to being broke, even though they're like swimming in cash right now.
Precisely. And that fear can be so powerful
Wow.
that it overrides their sense of social obligation
Hmm.
or even just like basic generosity.
I guess that makes sense, but
Yeah.
doesn't that create like a huge disconnect between them and everyone else?
That's a great question.
If you're so focused on saving every penny,
Yeah,
can you really relate to people who are struggling to make ends meet?
that's a really important point. And it leads us to our next theme,
Okay.
the out of touch and entitled theme.
Ooh, that's a good one.
This is where things get really interesting. Because
Okay.
when you're surrounded by wealth and privilege,
Yeah.
it's easy to lose sight of the realities of everyday life for most people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We found some crazy stories in this category.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
There's one about this person who suggested flying private to deal with flight anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Totally oblivious to the fact that like most people can't even afford a regular plane ticket.
Right. It's like a complete lack of awareness.
Yeah,
And that lack of awareness can breed a sense of entitlement.
right.
This belief that their experiences and perspectives are the norm, even though they're so far from it.
And then there's that story about the girl who was like totally baffled
Oh, yeah.
that her boyfriend didn't have thousands of dollars just like sitting around.
Like it was no big deal.
Yeah, she couldn't grasp the concept of living paycheck to paycheck.
It's like they're living in a parallel universe.
It really is.
Yeah,
This disconnect can create so much tension in relationships,
absolutely.
leading to misunderstandings and frustration and even resentment.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking different languages when it comes to money.
Totally.
And that can make it really hard to find common ground.
Makes you wonder if wealth can actually create a bubble that isolates people from the rest of society
Yeah.
and like warps their perceptions of what's normal.
It certainly can, and it raises some really important questions
Yeah.
about the social and psychological consequences of extreme wealth inequality.
Definitely.
But before we go down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
let's shift gears for a second
Great.
and talk about the other end of the spectrum,
Okay.
the extravagant spenders.
The ones who just throw money around like it's nothing.
Exactly, the ones who seem to have endless amounts of cash to burn.
All right, let's hear about them.
So the stories about these extravagant spenders, they're just as mind-boggling as the penny-pinching ones.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're talking about purchases that most people wouldn't even dream of.
Right, like there was this one person on the thread
Yeah.
who casually mentioned buying a $100,000 vehicle
Wow.
for a 4-day trip.
For a 4-day trip.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's more than some people make in a year.
I know, right?
It's crazy.
It's a perfect example of how, like, for some wealthy people,
Large sums of money just lose their significance.
right, they're operating on a whole different scale.
Yeah, what might seem like an astronomical figure to us is just like a drop in the bucket for them.
Exactly. Remember that story about the family
Oh, yeah.
who spent $1 million renovating their kitchen,
Yeah.
only to spend another $200,000 redoing it because they didn't like the first result?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Talk about first world problems.
I know, right? But it makes you wonder, though, like,
Yeah.
does this lack of financial restraint ever lead to regret
That's a good question.
or like a sense of emptiness?
You know, the Reddit thread doesn't really delve into their emotional states,
Great.
but it does raise the possibility
Yeah.
that constantly indulging in extravagant spending
Mm-hmm.
could actually lead to a diminished sense of satisfaction over time.
It's like the more you have, the less each additional thing like impacts you.
It is like that.
It's like that saying, money can't buy happiness.
Right.
Maybe for some
Yeah.
people, that endless cycle of buying and upgrading just becomes this kind of hollow pursuit.
It's certainly a possibility, and it speaks to a broader point about the complexities of wealth.
Yeah.
It's not just a simple equation where more money equals more happiness.
Yeah.
It's a much more nuanced
Uh-huh.
and individual experience.
Okay, so we've got the penny pinchers on one end,
Right.
the extravagant spenders on the other,
Yep.
and then this whole out-of-touch thing in the middle.
Yeah, it's like a whole spectrum of behaviors
Yeah.
stemming from the same root,
Yeah.
having way more money than most people could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And this actually brings us to a really crucial distinction
Okay.
that emerged from the Reddit thread.
Right.
The difference between self-made wealth
Uh-huh.
and inherited wealth.
Okay. Yeah, it does seem like people who earn their fortune through hard work,
Yeah.
they have a different relationship with money
Totally.
than those who were just born into it.
Absolutely. The thread suggests
Okay.
that self-made millionaires are often much more grounded and pragmatic,
Makes sense.
even if they occasionally indulge in, some extravagant purchases.
Right.
They've experienced firsthand the challenges of building wealth,
Yeah.
so they're more likely to be mindful of its value.
It's like they have a deeper appreciation for it,
Exactly.
because they know how much effort and sacrifice it took to get there.
Right. They're not as likely to take it for granted.
Exactly.
There's this one story
Okay.
about a self-made millionaire who was known for driving this old beat-up car.
Really?
Yeah, and when someone asked him why he didn't upgrade,
Yeah.
he simply replied, "It gets me from point A to point B,
Wow.
and that's all I need."
That's a great answer.
It's a powerful statement
It really is.
about priorities and
Mhm.
focusing on what truly matters.
So what about the people who inherited their wealth?
Well, according to the Reddit thread,
Okay.
they often exhibit a greater disconnect from the value of money.
That makes sense.
They haven't had to work for it,
Right.
so they may be more inclined to spend it freely, sometimes even recklessly.
Yeah, it's like money is this abstract concept for them.
Right.
It's something that's always been there,
Yeah.
not something they had to like earn through hard work and sacrifice.
Exactly. And this lack of experience with earning wealth
Yeah.
can sometimes lead to a sense of entitlement
I see.
or a lack of appreciation for the effort required to achieve financial security.
But we did hear some stories about people with inherited wealth
We did.
who were like incredibly generous and down to earth.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some heartwarming anecdotes
Yeah.
about trust fund recipients who used their wealth to support charitable causes,
Mm-hmm.
or even start businesses that create jobs,
Yeah.
or simply help those in need.
It's a good reminder that wealth doesn't automatically dictate character.
Absolutely.
There are kind, compassionate, and generous people at every level of the financial spectrum.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that it's not the amount of money you have,
Right.
but what you choose to do with it that truly defines you.
Totally. Speaking of defining ourselves,
Okay.
one of the most fascinating threads that emerged from this whole Reddit deep dive was this concept of invisible wealth.
Oh, yeah. Invisible wealth.
Yeah, like these are the people who are like incredibly wealthy,
Uh-huh.
but they choose to live these relatively modest lifestyles.
Right. They blend in seamlessly without flaunting their fortunes.
Like they've cracked the code,
They have.
they enjoy the benefits of wealth,
Yeah.
but they don't succumb to the temptations of extravagance
Right.
or the pressures of social status.
There's some amazing examples of this in the thread.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like the billionaire who was described as incredibly humble and low-key. You would never guess he was worth billions.
Wow.
based on his appearance or lifestyle.
Interesting.
He drove a modest car, lived in a comfortable but not ostentatious home, and was known for his down-to-earth demeanor.
It's like they've reached this level of self-awareness and security
Yeah.
where they no longer need to seek validation through material possessions.
Exactly. They're content with who they are and what they have.
Yeah, and for some people, it might be a conscious decision
Right.
to protect their privacy
Yeah.
and avoid unwanted attention.
Absolutely. If you don't advertise your wealth,
Yeah.
you're less likely to attract gold diggers or scammers
Right.
or even potential security risks.
Yeah. It makes sense to want to maintain a low profile.
It does. And it's important to note
Okay.
that this invisible wealth phenomenon isn't just limited to those who inherited their money.
Oh, okay.
We heard stories about self-made millionaires
Yeah.
who also chose to live relatively modest lifestyles,
Right.
even though they could easily afford to indulge in luxury.
Like that multimillionaire who installed the fence for his friend.
Exactly. He didn't seem to have any desire to show off his wealth.
Yeah, he was just genuinely kind and generous.
Right. And it brings us back to that fundamental truth.
Okay.
Wealth doesn't define a person's character.
It's about the choices we make. Yeah. The values we embrace
Mm-hmm.
and the impact we have on others.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
Penny pinching, extravagant spending,
Yep.
the out-of-touch phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
self-made versus inherited wealth,
Right.
and even this fascinating concept of invisible wealth.
Yeah, it seems like the world of the wealthy is just as diverse and complex
It really
as
is.
any other segment of society.
It is, and that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating.
It is.
They challenge our preconceived notions
Yeah,
and reveal the nuances of human behavior,
absolutely.
regardless of socioeconomic status.
But it's easy to get caught up in the
Yeah.
sensational aspects of wealth.
Right, like the extreme frugality or lavish spending.
Exactly.
But I think the real value of these conversations is understanding
Yeah,
the deeper psychological and emotional implications of having a lot of money.
I couldn't agree more. We've explored some of the potential pitfalls,
Yeah.
like the risk of becoming out of touch or developing unhealthy attachments to material possession.
Right.
But we've also seen examples of individuals who use their wealth for good, supporting causes they believe in,
Yeah.
making a positive impact on the world.
And ultimately, that's what it's all about, right?
It
It's
is.
not about the money itself,
Right.
but how we choose to use it
Exactly.
and the kind of people we become in the process.
Well said.
Okay, I have to ask this.
Okay.
Throughout this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
we've been exploring the habits and behaviors of wealthy individuals,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't really addressed the elephant in the room,
Okay.
the emotional impact of wealth.
You're right. We've talked about the potential for wealth
Yeah.
to create a disconnect in relationships
Uh-huh.
and distort our perceptions of the world.
Right.
But there's a whole other layer to explore.
Okay.
The internal struggles, the anxieties,
Yeah.
even the guilt that can come with having a lot of money.
Yeah, it seems like wealth can be both a blessing and a burden.
It really can.
On the one hand, you have the freedom and the opportunities that come with financial security.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there's this potential for guilt, anxiety, and a sense of isolation.
Absolutely. One of the most common emotional struggles we see among the wealthy is the sense of guilt or unease
Okay.
about their privilege.
Interesting.
They may feel like they don't deserve their wealth or that they haven't earned it.
Right.
This is especially true for those who inherited their fortunes.
I can imagine that would be a really heavy weight to carry.
It is.
If you constantly feel guilty about your wealth,
Yeah.
it must be hard to even enjoy it.
Right. It can be hard to fully embrace it or even feel truly happy.
So how does that guilt manifest?
Well, it can manifest in different ways.
Okay.
Some people try to overcompensate by being excessively generous,
Oh.
donating large sums of money to charity,
Mm-hmm.
or constantly showering their loved ones with gifts.
It's like they're trying to buy their way out of guilt.
Yeah, like they're trying to earn some kind of moral redemption.
Right. But does that really work?
Not necessarily. True generosity comes from a place of joy and abundance,
Mm-hmm.
not a sense of obligation or guilt.
Right.
And sometimes those excessive displays of wealth can actually create more distance between them and the people they're trying to connect with.
It's like they're inadvertently highlighting the power imbalance,
Exactly.
making it harder to form genuine relationships.
Absolutely. And then there's the anxiety that can come with wealth.
Oh, yeah. You think having a lot of money would alleviate stress,
You'd think so.
but it often does the opposite.
It often does. We've all heard stories about celebrities and lottery winners
Mm-hmm.
who lose their fortunes or end up miserable despite their wealth.
Right.
And that's partly because managing wealth can be incredibly stressful,
Okay.
especially if you're not financially savvy
Right.
or if you have a fear of losing it all.
Yeah, there's this constant pressure
Huge pressure.
to make smart investments.
Yeah. Protect your assets. Avoid making mistakes.
It sounds exhausting.
It's like the more money you have, the more you have to worry about.
And then there's the fear of being taken advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. Wealthy individuals are often targets for scams,
Mhm.
lawsuits, even kidnapping attempts.
It's no wonder they can feel anxious or even paranoid at times.
Right. It's like their wealth becomes a magnet for unwanted attention.
Yeah, creating this constant sense of unease and vulnerability.
Exactly. And this can lead to a sense of isolation.
Okay.
Wealthy individuals may find it difficult to trust people, wondering if they're being befriended for their money.
Right, or if they have ulterior motives.
Yeah, this can make it really challenging to form genuine connections
Yeah.
and maintain healthy relationships.
So even though they have all the resources in the world,
Yeah,
they can still feel lonely and disconnected.
absolutely. It's a strange paradox.
It really is. It's a reminder that wealth doesn't automatically solve all of life's problems.
It doesn't.
In fact, it can sometimes exacerbate existing issues
Yeah.
or create entirely new ones. Okay, so we've talked about the guilt, the anxiety, the isolation. But what about the positive aspects?
Okay.
Surely there are some emotional benefits
There are.
to having financial security and freedom.
Absolutely. Wealth can provide a sense of security.
Okay.
Knowing that you can afford the basic necessities of life
Mm-hmm.
and provide for your loved ones.
Yeah.
It can also create opportunities for travel, personal growth, and pursuing your passions.
And there's the freedom to choose how you spend your time and energy?
Right. You're not bound by the constraints of a 9-to-5 job
Yeah.
or the constant worry about paying bills.
Exactly. But even with all those benefits, it seems like there's a delicate balance to strike.
There is.
How do you enjoy the perks of wealth without letting it consume you
Mhm.
or distort your values?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And there's no easy answer.
Okay.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone.
I see.
But one key factor is maintaining a sense of perspective.
So remembering that wealth is relative.
What?
What might seem like an extravagant amount of money to one person
Yeah.
can be a drop in the bucket to another.
And it's about focusing on the things that truly matter in life.
Okay.
Relationships, experiences, personal growth, making a positive impact on the world.
It's about remembering that wealth is a tool
Yeah.
that can be used for good or ill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to each of us to decide how we want to wield that power.
Exactly. And when we approach wealth with that mindset,
Okay.
we can create a life that's both prosperous and fulfilling,
Yeah.
one that aligns with our values
Mm-hmm.
and allows us to make a meaningful difference in the world.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've explored the unexpected habits of the wealthy.
Yeah.
From their penny-pinching tendencies to their extravagant spending.
Mm-hmm.
And we've delved into the complex emotional landscape.
Right.
It comes with having a lot of money.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
Yes.
Challenging our assumptions and revealing the nuanced ways in which wealth interacts with human behavior.
And it's a reminder that wealth is a powerful force,
It is.
but it's not the defining factor in our happiness or fulfillment.
No, it's not.
It's how we choose to use it,
Right.
the values we embrace, and the impact we have on others that truly matters.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
True wealth isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about the richness of your experiences,
Okay.
the strength of your relationships,
Yeah.
and the legacy you leave behind.
So go out there and create a life that's both prosperous and meaningful one that aligns with your values and makes a positive impact on the world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.